Good morning and welcome back to Devolution Citizen TV, the show that brings you what you need to think about as you begin your day. And as I told you earlier, we'll be talking to the Devolution Cabinet Secretary Eugene Wamalwa. He is actually here to talk about taking stock of devolution 6 years down the line. Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
How have you started the year?
No, very well. It's a good year.
Okay.
We hope it will be better than last year.
Okay.
Yes.
It's just 2 days to the end of January, so starting next month, I'll not be asking that question. We're still in the mood of a new year.
Correct.
All right, so thank you so much for making time for us. And I want us to look at the progress that we have made so far since 2013, when the devolved units became effective in as far as having government to run them the way they do. And I'm interested in looking at the figures that so far, up to the financial year 2017-2018, 1.35 trillion shillings had been sent to the counties. So
yes.
If you are to add what has been sent in the first quarter or the first half of financial year 2018-19, you're talking about more than 1.4 trillion shillings. But unfortunately, when you look at this money, when you look at reports of the control of budget, we see more than 70% going to recurrent expenditure, yes. And so little left for development agenda. What is the situation? What is wrong? And why are we at this situation despite the requirement that at least 30% should go to development projects?
I think first of all, let me thank you for giving me the opportunity to come this morning talk about devolution and taking stock of devolution 6 years down the line. Just yesterday, we were holding the steering committee meeting, preparing for the 6th devolution conference, which will be coming up on 4th of March in Kirinyaga. And we had the last one in Kakamega in April.
Right.
And when we met in Kakamega, we were really taking stock of our 5 years of devolution, the success stories, as well as the challenges. And the issue you're raising is really one of the challenges that we are facing going forward. Because when you look at what has gone to the counties, we started by releasing about 210 billion. I think that was the first tranche. Then we released another, the following year, about 226 billion. The third year, we released about 287 billion. And the fourth year, 305 billion. You can see a steady increase up to 326 billion on the 5th year. Right. And the 6th year, as we speak, we are talking about 372 billion, a very steady increase of money going to the counties, over 1.4 trillion released to the counties. So we are looking at how much of this has really gone to development. And one of the challenges we saw was that in spite of the Public Finance Management Act providing that we should have at least 30% going to development, we have not been able to meet this threshold. And that's why the control of budget has raised some of the issues. And we want to see how this can be done, so that whatever we take to the counties is not all spent on recurrent. I think it was not the intention of Kenyans to take this money to the counties just to pay salaries, to pay people's allowances, to buy big cars. People wanted this money to go and develop their counties and to develop their country. So as we speak going forward, these are some of the areas we're looking at. The other area we're looking at is the on-source revenue, being raised in the counties and how we can enhance this. We also want to look at how we can seal the loopholes through which corruption is sipping these funds. Because our intention really and the objects of devolution under Article 174 of our Constitution was to devolve the resources, to develop the country, to improve service delivery. But it was not the intention of Kenyans to devolve corruption. So these are challenges we are facing. But not to say that it's a grim story over 6 years of devolution. There are success stories. We have seen counties that had never seen tarmac roads, counties like Mandera, like Wajir, for the first time in 50 years, having tarmac roads. There are health facilities that people used to travel hundreds of kilometers to come to Kenyatta National Hospital. You'd have people traveling all the way from Turkana, all the way to Eldred, Moi Referral Hospital, just to access a CT scan. But with devolution, we are having this equipment in remote areas of our country. We are having, maternal deaths reduced in a county like Mandera. Where we were at almost 80%, we have gone down. So there are success stories that we celebrate. and we want to see how we can strengthen devolution going forward.
Right. The success stories, of course, have been seen, but
Yes.
the concern of the Kenyan is that, for instance, when you say that 450, the aggregate counter budgets for financial year, I believe 17-18, was 450.2 billion shillings. That is inclusive of on-source revenue.
Correct.
But then again, the recurrent expenditure, according to the budget, had been allocated 60.5%. That's about 270 billion shillings.
Yes.
For development expenditure, it was allocated 39.5%.
Yes.
But when it came to actual utilization, then you find that what is the figure? Less than 30%, about 22% is the effective rate of resources that are utilized for development.
Yes.
When you speak to some of these governors, they tell you that they have quite an expanded workforce.
Yes.
From where you sit as the Devolution Cabinet Secretary, what do you think we need to do to cut on this cost? Because obviously you will continue spending money on the workforce as long as it's there. Is it a possibility to, within the law, retrench?
I think there are options that we have open to us, but we must start by controlling some of the issues, the real challenges. When you have tribalism, we have clanism, we have nepotism seeping into the county governments. When a governor comes in, perhaps those who come from his clan, of course, put pressure on him. It's our time to eat. We are the ones in charge of this. You are our president in this county. We must get the jobs. So you have situations where we have not let the county public service boards do their jobs. When we started this new system of governance, we had our Public Service Commission doing a great job of sending over 60,000 civil servants to these counties, setting up county public service boards. But when we have a change of guard, particularly after the elections, when a governor comes in, the first thing he wants to do is to kick out the county public service board, bring in his own people, employ his own people, out of pressure. So we've had a problem of a ballooning wage bill that is actually soaking up most of the funds that should go to development. So I think a time is coming when we must put a control to this so that the true objects of devolution are realized through development reaching every county, every sub-county, and every village. So these are some of the challenges. As we go to Kirinyaga, we want to talk about them in a candid way. We do not want our devolution conferences to be talk shows where we go and we feel good about celebrating, because the success story is there. And I can tell you today, internationally, Kenya is being looked at as a case study. There are people who travel from different corners of this continent to come here to ask us, how did you do this in 5 years? Form 47 governments and devolve resources and get this thing working. As far as Europe, where they have old systems of federal governments, people are coming to Kenya to see how we did this. So we have every reason to celebrate. But we must not be complacent. We must look at the real challenges that we're talking about today. And as we go to Kirinyaga, these are some of the issues we want to look at. And we have all the institutions there to tell us, this is the scorecard. This is where we're doing well. This is where we're doing badly. We must pull up our socks. Yes.
So let me be specific, even as you approach the devolution conference, which you're not the only person who will be making a decision.
Yes.
Actually, maybe the Council of Governors will have more strength in making that decision. Yes. But from where you sit, because I want to take a case of Machakos County, that in the financial year 17-18, the salaries and the salaries were 4.8 billion, that's 65% of the budget. Operations were 1.5 billion, that's 21%. So in total, that's about 86% went to salaries and operations. For development, it's only 14% that was left for that. So when you look at all these, what must we do? Because the law requires that at least a third goes to development. What is that is very immediate that you have to do?
30%. So I think the controller of budget, the Auditor General, we have these counties that have done very badly, that have actually been pointed out in these reports. So I think instead of maybe governors complaining that the Auditor General or the controller of budget has been unkind to them, I think let us face the reality, because the intention really was not to take this money just for salaries and allowances, and particularly foreign travels. Recently, as a ministry, we tried to streamline this. Of course, there was a lot of resistance, but with time, when you talk to some of the governors now, they're agreeing with us that unless we control some of these expenditures, benchmarking trips to Europe, to America, you know, we are losing a lot of money that should have gone to develop our counties, to actually get people traveling all over the world. But recently in Makueni, we did a local benchmarking, and we were all very, very happy to see what has happened in Makueni. We saw a hospital that had been built with less than 200 million shillings, including the building itself, including the equipment and operationalization of this. When you go to other counties, 200 million is what has been used to refurbish an existing building. And then you need some more money to buy the beds, buy the equipment. So we asked the governors, how did Professor Kivuda Kibwana do this? Then why do you have to go to Europe to benchmark? Come to Makueni and benchmark with Kibwana and say, if this is what 200 million can do in my county, there's something wrong. We have to do better than we've been doing. So these are real challenges I want to acknowledge, but we are addressing them. As a ministry also, we have the mandate of ensuring that we give capacity to the counties. And this is one area we're focusing on, to do capacity building, to give technical support to the counties. And under the Kenya Devolution Support Program, we have a program with the World Bank of over 20 billion that we are now supporting the counties to build capacity so that some of the challenges that we are seeing now are addressed.
Yes. I want to move on to revenue collection, because when devolution was being enforced, the idea was that there would be money allocated from the national government, but also counties have to work hard to generate revenue from their own resources. And I look at financial year 2017-18. The plan was to raise revenue of up to, what is the amount? 49.2 billion shillings. But in actual sense, they only raised 32.4 billion shillings. And this was actually a decline from the previous year of 2016-17. So in a sense, like for the current year, they intended to raise 50 billion shillings in revenue, but going with the trend, it may be difficult to generate that kind of revenue. What do you think we haven't done? Because previously, before devolution, there used to be the county councils, the municipalities that were generating revenue. Why have we not been able to ensure that counties are more efficient in generating that revenue and adding on to what we need to utilize for development and recurrent expenditure?
So some of the issues that we have discussed, both at the previous devolution conference and the upcoming one, is how we can actually build capacities of counties to be able to raise their own revenue. One way of doing it is through technology. We are urging counties to embrace latest technology that has seen some counties, and we are talking over almost 14 counties out of 47 that have embraced this new technology, automated their revenue collection. They have digitalized most of their systems. You see that counties that have done this have more than doubled their revenue. Because once you reduce contact points of money changing hands, you cut down corruption, you increase efficiency. And that's why we are urging other counties that have not done this to borrow a leaf from counties that have automated their systems and that have increased their revenue collection. I was very pleased, I think last year, Bungoma County got an award for being one of the counties that has improved their revenue collection through automation of their system. And we have 14 counties that have done that. Fighting corruption, technology will be one of the new tools that we can employ to fight corruption. So we are urging counties, and we will at this conference also, as we talk about the Big Four and how we can partner as national government with the county governments and our development partners, be looking at how we can give capacity to these counties.
Okay.
Yes.
And I just want to highlight that according to the Control of Budget report for financial year 2017-18, Tana River, Migori and Kwale counties were the only counties that surpassed their annual targets for revenue.
Yes.
For instance, for Tana River, they went up to 188%.
Yes.
For Migori, 111%, and Kwale did 100.5%. Yes. But there's still another challenge that by law, the counties are supposed to generate revenue, deposit it with the National Treasury, then you can withdraw from there to utilize.
Yes.
But I have a situation where counties are utilizing those resources as soon as they collect them, they start to utilize them. From the Devolution Ministry perspective, is there anything that you can do to stop this?
I think that is one area that the National Treasury is following up, and they're trying to see how that can be regulated, because also when revenue is collected and is not accounted for, I think that is there are loopholes through which funds are lost, and maybe what is disclosed is not what has been collected. But once we have employed technology that can improve efficiency, we believe some of these things will belong to the past. So we will be engaging. The National Treasury will be with us. We'll also be looking at how Tana River and these other counties like Migori have succeeded. So at the devolution conference, we will have a very candid talk as a devolution family at the devolution table. How come these 4 counties have more than double their revenue collection? How come this county is doing this badly?
Okay.
Yet even the former county government, you know, there are counties where former county governments, former municipal councils, were collecting more than the current county governments are doing. So these are issues that we're asking each other. There must be something wrong on the ground.
Okay.
And we want this fixed so that we move forward, we strengthen devolution.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
Of course, you can join the conversation by texting us on 22422, or you can tweet us at Citizen TV Kenya, at Samgituku. The hashtag to use is Daybreak. There are some questions that are coming through, but before I go to that, there's the question of exchequer releases, because sometimes, and I had the governor of Meru, Keretu Murongi, is that last week or the previous one? He was complaining about how money is being released to the counties. The exchequer releases are late at sometimes. You've seen officers of the counties going without a salary. You've seen the development projects getting late to be implemented because now the money that comes has to go to recurrent expenditure. I mean, 6 years down the line, we're still having these challenges. What must we do? And how are you helping these counties to not have these challenges with the National Treasury?
Some I can confirm that is one of the major complaints from the governors every time we meet at all levels, including at the summit level. But we believe that there are matters that are being addressed by our National Treasury, and we have invited our brother C.S. Rotich. At the devolution conference, we will be engaging, and we know that it's a matter that will be coming up, and it's a matter that is being addressed, and we believe in due course we should address the matter effectively. Okay. Yes.
Let's look at someone is saying that the untamable corruption, and wanton wastage at counties has dampened citizens' enthusiasm on the viability of these counties in transforming their lives. Hope is fast waning, and this can embolden the corrupt. So how can these counties be salvaged from these cartels who are also leaders in these devolved units? That is comment from Eldred. And I want to combine this with the fact that we have seen a number of county bosses, county chiefs, governors taken before court or being investigated by EACC because of certain resources that may have been lost. Case in point, Migori Governor Okoth Obado, who is facing prosecution to the tune of over 2 billion shillings that may have been misappropriated or embezzled. The other case is for Nairobi, former Governor Dr. Evans Kidero, who is in court on one of the cases, the question about revenue of up to 200 million shillings. Is it a possibility that you can stop this embezzlement or this stealing before it actually happens, given the current system we have of devolution?
It is possible, and I've said one way of cutting down on this corruption is embracing technology as a new weapon that can check some of these ills. But it still goes down to an attitude change and embracing our national values under Article 10. It is really about our values. It's really about the integrity of our leaders. And it's really about the will of Kenyans to fight corruption. And I have time and again challenged the governors that His Excellency, the President, has declared war on corruption. But he's leading the fight from the top. Unless we have governors leading the fight from the ground, from the bottom, we will not succeed in this war against corruption. So we must have a zero tolerance policy towards corruption, both at the national government level and at the county level. I think we must partner together as national government with the county governments to fight this ill together. We have institutions that we have put in place. And with the just ended national conference on corruption, we saw new brooms that we believe are going to sweep clean. We saw Nuruddin Haji, we've seen Mubarak, we've seen DCI Kinoti, the AG Kihara. There is a new commitment and then a new impetus that has been given to the war against corruption led by the President himself. But unless the governors and all Kenyans support this cause, we will not succeed. So we will be engaging as we go to this conference with all the leaders, both at national and county. We see how we can partner in the war against corruption. And from the recent trend of things, we want everyone to know that there's no one who is above the law in Kenya. We have seen governors being arrested, being dragged to court, and I'm sure there will be more arrests coming. And it will be that in Kenya today, it might not, you might run, but you cannot hide. But or even hiding that money in Kenya and internationally, it might not be as easy as it has been. But
the frustration, Waziri, with the Kenyans is that, yes, zero tolerance to corruption, no one is above the law, but we still get this money taken away from the public. It's not doing what it's supposed to be doing. Is there anything that you haven't done that maybe you should do?
What has been lacking actually has been the political will. I remember we had this committee of eminent persons, the Kiplagat committee, and they tabled this report and said, fighting corruption must start at the top. Unless there is political will by the leadership of the country, we cannot win. Now, under the leadership of President Uhuru, we have that political will and commitment. So all we need is Kenyans to now join this fight. The Kenyans can play a role by being the whistleblowers. What is happening in the counties, these Kenyans know what is happening. So we need more whistleblowers coming on board, more people saying we will not allow our money in these counties to be misused in this manner, giving information to the institutions so that we have evidence. We have arrests being made, but also we have convictions. We must start seeing people going to jail. If we have in Israel former prime ministers going to jail, South Korea, former presidents going to jail, the day you see like Obama's governor in the US going to jail and you have governors here going to jail, people realize that it's no longer business as usual. But this war must be won by the people themselves coming on board and now supporting government, because we have leadership from the top, the political goodwill is there, and the commitment is there.
All right, before we go to the revenue allocation, we have an SMS feedback, if we can read that. This is Chabi from Eldama Ravine, and she is saying that devolution CS is talking right on devolution, anyhow, to reduce expenditure on recurrent, that is, and also address duplication of duties, allowances to be reduced, corruption and procurement to be reduced. So she's just giving her suggestions on what needs to be done. I don't know whether you have anything to say about that.
Yes, I agree with that. And as you can see, what the president has already started. I think they say the devil is in the details, but I can say the devil is in the procurement. I think that is the engine where everything is cooked. Our procurement systems, I think we must improve on our systems, and that is what is being addressed now with the leadership of our National Treasury.
Yes. And we hope it can succeed, because even the governors, some of them are fighting. They're saying that if IFMIS is ineffective, that is Integrated Financial Management Information System, yet it is the tool that is being used to share or distribute the resources, and yet the same set of resources end up in the wrong hands. So I don't know.
No, it's a matter of improving on our technology and our systems, but this must be done.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. I want to focus on the revenue distribution in this country for the counties, because it's a conversation that have been ongoing. Some regions that feel they are more populated, saying that they've been given a raw deal against areas that are more they're more vast,
Yes.
they're poorer. Currently, 45% of resources that are being shared goes to, they are allocated based on the population of each county. 26% is equal share, that is every county receives equal amount up to 26%. And then 18% is based on the poverty factor for that particular county. The land area takes about, that should be 8% and 2% based on the fiscal effort. That is how much effort is the county making in generating revenue. And finally, on development factor, it takes about 1%. So when you look at this formula, it has been implemented for the past few years, but certain regions feel it is the wrong one. And actually, there's a proposal by CRA that revenue now should be allocated based on the needs, based on the functions. First of all, where do you sit in this conversation?
I think for me, as the Minister for Devolution, I must say, first of all, just looking at these 6 years, during which we changed our system of governance from the centralized system to the devolved system, I think devolution is a success story. Every corner of Kenya is feeling the fruits of devolution reaching them because of the fair distribution of resources, and every corner of Kenya getting a fair share of the national cake. Before that, right from the session paper number 10 of 1965, we had resources directed to the high potential areas. For many years, we had a part of this country marginalized.
Right.
And development was not going to certain corners of this country. And this system actually entrenched marginalization. But the answer to that was the 2010 Constitution that has now brought a system that wants to create a more equal Kenya. Because at some point we had a Kenya that was one of the most unequal societies in the world. But with the devolution now, we have a semblance of equality. And there's no discrimination against any part of Kenya on the basis of any policies that existed before. So devolution is really the equalizer. So where we are going, I think we are reaching a point where we can now start reviewing some of these things. We are saying this is the 6th year of devolution. This is the 9th year of our new constitution after 2010. There is talk of changing of the constitution. There's talk of a referendum to look at what needs fixing. There's a talk of changing of the formula, and CRA has already come up with that. And our Houses of Parliament will be looking at this, and we believe in due course we can only but improve. Already we took a major step in terms of bringing a fair and an equal way of sharing resources in the country. And I'm happy so far, I'm satisfied that we are doing well as far as the devolution is concerned. But there's room for improvement, including very healthy suggestions that have come on how we can strengthen devolution. I met the Council of Governors, and I was very happy that they have already formed a committee to look at the Constitution and how in the ongoing national discourse they can, as governors, have their voice heard on how devolution can be strengthened. This team is led by Professor Kibwana of the Governor Makueni, as well as Governor Kiraitu of Meru. And we believe we'll hear more sober voices speaking for devolution and best ways on how it can be strengthened. And the issue of revenue allocation sharing is one area that it's an ongoing conversation, and I want to encourage Kenyans to engage.
You raised an important point there that at the start of the freedom of this country, the independence of this country, resources used to be allocated to the high potential areas, and that's why areas like the drylands, ESAL, they were marginalized. Now, this conversation that funds need to follow functions, it had the governor of Mandera, Ali Roba, complaining that when you say that resources should be allocated based on the functions of a county, including agriculture, in Mandera, agriculture can only do so much because of the situation, the water access, and the dryness of the area. So he feels that he might lose quite a big chunk of resources. Don't you think if we did that, then it goes against the same idea that you want to focus resources not just on the high potential areas but across the country?
I do not think that is true, and I think that was, I believe, the folly behind that thinking, that these are low potential areas. We should not direct a lot of resources or attention to, but we focus on high potential areas so that they carry the country. When you look at the ASAL counties, and I'm very grateful that His Excellency the President created a state department specifically for the ASAL counties. You're talking about 29 counties out of 47 that are ASAL. You are talking about almost 75% the landmass of Kenya being ASAL. When you look at the high potential areas, like where I come from, this is the traditional food basket of Kenya. The population is growing. The effects of climate change are being felt. And you can no longer rely on just the same traditional food basket with what is happening. We must start creating new bread baskets. And I'm telling you, a place like Mandera that you are talking about not being productive, Mandera has huge potential. The Daua River Basin by itself, we have a major irrigation project coming. We are working with Somalia, we are working with Ethiopia, and on 29th we will be in Mandera. Actually, we should be going to Mandera to look at this potential. And we are talking of an area that with irrigation from the Daua River, we can create a lot of, food security, not just for the county of Mandera, but the country as a whole. An area like Ukambani, where we've traditionally, 50 years, we've been taking relief food, giving them what they call molio.
Yes.
Today, we are developing Thwake. Thwake Dam by itself can bring 100,000 acres under irrigation. So we have a new bread basket coming up in Ukambani. We are going to Ukambani not to take relief food in another 10 years. We'll go to Ukambani to take food to other counties. We are talking about Tana River, the Galana Kulalu irrigation project. You have 1 million acres there. We've had our challenges, but the potential is there. The prospects of creating a new bread basket in two ASAL counties, Tana River and Kilifi, is huge. So we are saying we need to change our thinking, so that what we thought had no potential actually holds the potential for the big four food security pillar. And these are going to be the ASAL counties.
Waziri, changed our thinking. But since 2013, you have had the try and error with the Galana Kulalu. We still don't have tangible returns from that.
No, some we do. Some we do. We do because what did we want to prove in the Galana? It was a model farm to try and see, can this land be productive? And what we did was actually prove that between Tana River and Kilifi counties lies a new bread basket of 1 million acres that can produce more bags of maize per acre than the traditional bread basket of Trans Nzoia.
So how much did you have
the highest
in 2018 from that project?
I can tell you that I come from Trans Nzoia, where we used to harvest about 35 bags per acre. Production has come down. The soils, the fertilizer, and there are many factors that have come into play. The subdivision of this land, you're coming down, the best you can do in Trans Nzoia now are 20 bags per acre. But in an area that is virgin, that has never been developed, we have been able to prove that in Galana you can produce 39 bags per acre. So the issue where people have not understood about Galana, it was not the production. It was a proof of concept. Can you produce maize in this region? Yes, we can. And we have the highest quality aflatoxin-free maize from Galana that was able for actually the last 3 years when we had drought. We did not bring maize from Uasin Gishu or Trans Nzoia to the coast. We actually took maize from Galana to feed the people of Kilifi, the people of Tana River, and we took even the maize up to Garissa.
And you'll be striving to verify that. Finally, Waziri, as we wind up, there has been this conversation about your brother's family and how devastated they are in terms of accessing resources that were left by the former Vice President, Eugene Wamalwa. Exactly what's happening, very briefly.
I think that's a matter that is in court. It's coming up on 4th of February, that is next week. And I think then Kenyans will know the truth. Otherwise, what has been going around is what I'll call fake news. And I don't wish to comment on fake news. Let's wait for the court. The real story will be heard. And I believe justice will be done. Thank you.
And I want to leave it at that.
Thank you.
So, Devolution Cabinet Secretary Eugene Wamalwa, thank you so much for making time for us on Daybreak to talk about taking stock of devolution, and wish you well as you continue to pursue these very ambitious vision that the country has. And of course, we hope that more resources can be devoted to development. Asante sana.
Thank you very much.